The songs you grew up with felt simple. They played at weddings, on long summer drives, on the radio during the best years of your life. They sounded carefree. But what if some of those songs were never meant to be cheerful? What if behind those familiar melodies were stories of loss, reflection, and real human struggle? Tonight, we're uncovering the deeper origins behind 10 iconic 1970s hits. Some will surprise you, and one, in particular, might completely change the way you hear it. Let's begin. Number 10. Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks, 1974.
When all the birds are singing in the sky.
We had joy, we had fun. It sounds almost optimistic. In 1974, this song spent 3 weeks at number 1 in the United States and reportedly sold over 14 million copies worldwide. It became a graduation favorite, a farewell anthem, a nostalgic sing-along. But listen closely to the lyrics. The narrator isn't celebrating life. He's saying goodbye to it. The song traces its roots back to 1961, when Belgian songwriter Jacques Brel wrote a French composition titled Le Moribond. His version carried sharp irony and theatrical intensity. It was darker in tone, reflective, even confrontational.
On the ground, goodbye, Michelle, it's hard to die.
Years later, Terry Jacks encountered an English adaptation and was struck by the melody's emotional pull. At the time, someone close to him was facing a life-threatening illness. Watching that experience unfold changed how he interpreted the song. Instead of bitterness, he rewrote the lyrics as a peaceful farewell, focusing on gratitude, memory, and acceptance. The result was deceptively gentle, a bright melody paired with the theme of life coming to an end. And that contrast is precisely why it resonated. People heard hope, but beneath it was reflection, a song about goodbye, that somehow felt comforting. Music has a way of softening difficult truths, wrapping them in melody so we can carry them more easily. And this was only the beginning. Number 9. Alone Again, Naturally, Gilbert O'Sullivan, 1972.
I promised myself to treat myself and visit a nearby.
At first listen, it feels light, a gentle piano, a soft melody, almost whimsical. But in 1972, this song quietly became one of the most unexpected hits of the decade, spending 6 non-consecutive weeks at number 1 in the United States and becoming the second biggest song of the year on the Billboard charts. And yet, the lyrics tell a very different story.
Forward to wouldn't do the role I was about to play.
Alone Again, Naturally, follows a narrator reflecting on abandonment, loss, and deep loneliness. In the opening verse, he contemplates standing on the edge of despair after being left at the altar. As the song unfolds, he questions faith, remembers the loss of his parents, and wrestles with isolation. It's introspective, vulnerable, surprisingly heavy. What makes it so powerful is the contrast. Gilbert O'Sullivan's arrangement is deliberately understated. The melody is clean and accessible. His voice sounds almost gentle, even innocent. That contrast between tone and theme creates tension. You could easily sing along without fully absorbing the meaning. But if you pause and really listen, the song becomes something else entirely. A portrait of quiet, emotional struggle wrapped in a radio-friendly package. Producer Gordon Mills kept the sound bright and approachable, which helped it dominate AM airwaves. It felt safe, familiar, playable between upbeat tracks. And perhaps that's why it connected so deeply. Because it gave listeners permission to acknowledge feelings that weren't always openly discussed at the time. Loneliness, doubt, vulnerability, not through darkness, but through melody. A cheerful surface, a reflective core, and proof that some of the most emotionally complex songs in the 1970s didn't sound heavy at all. Number 8. Dancing in the Moonlight, King Harvest, 1972. Few songs from the early 70s feel as effortlessly joyful as this one. The piano sparkles, the groove is relaxed, the lyrics paint a picture of friends laughing and dancing under a clear night sky. Released in 1972, Dancing in the Moonlight climbed to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a soft rock staple of the decade. It sounds like pure happiness, but its origin was surprisingly different.
For the hearings side. They don't bark.
The song was written by Sherman Kelly after a deeply unsettling experience while traveling in the Caribbean in 1969. What began as a carefree trip took a frightening turn, leaving a lasting emotional impact. During his recovery, Kelly found himself imagining something completely opposite of what he had lived through. Not fear, but peace. Not chaos, but community. Not darkness, but celebration. He later explained that the song was his way of picturing an ideal world, one where people felt safe, connected, and joyful together. That imagined scene became the heart of the song.
Keep things loose, they keep that alive.
Kelly's earlier band first recorded it, but it gained widespread recognition when King Harvest released their version in 1972. With its smooth vocals and warm keyboard tone, the track captured that hopeful vision perfectly. What listeners embraced wasn't the experience that inspired it, it was the dream that rose out of it. And that may be why the song endures. Because sometimes music isn't a reflection of pain. It's a response to it. A reminder of what we wish the world could feel like: light, open, peaceful. Dancing in the Moonlight sounds carefree, but at its core, it's about choosing joy, even after life has shown you something else. Number 7. Bad Girls, Donna Summer, 1979. Toot toot, hey, beep beep! From the very first beat, this sounds like pure disco electricity. Released in 1979, Bad Girls became one of Donna Summer's biggest hits, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and dominating dance floors at the height of the disco era. It felt bold, confident, playful, but the inspiration behind the song was more serious than most listeners realized. One evening, a member of Donna Summer's team was stopped by police while leaving a studio late at night. She was questioned based on assumptions about why she was alone on the street. The incident left a strong impression on Summer. Rather than respond with anger alone, she responded with music. Bad Girls became a commentary, not a judgment, on how women were often viewed in nightlife settings. Beneath the catchy rhythm and driving bass line is a subtle message about dignity and misunderstanding. Interestingly, her label initially hesitated. The theme felt risky. At one point, the song was nearly passed to another artist, but Summer believed in it, and when it was released, it resonated. Listeners embraced the groove, the rhythm, the confidence. Yet underneath that disco sheen was something thoughtful, a reflection of real-world experiences, wrapped in a sound designed to make people move. That contrast is what defines so many great songs of the 1970s, danceable on the surface, meaningful underneath. Bad Girls wasn't just a club anthem, it was awareness set to a beat. Number 6. Layla, Derek and the Dominoes, 1970.
What do you do when you get lonely?
That opening riff, sharp, urgent, almost desperate. Released in 1970, Layla would become one of the most iconic rock songs ever recorded, later climbing into the top 10 in the US during its 1972 re-release. But beneath the legendary guitar line was a very personal story. The song was written by Eric Clapton, who at the time was deeply infatuated with Pattie Boyd, the wife of his close friend George Harrison. The emotional tension was real, the situation was complicated, and the feelings were intense. Clapton later revealed that he named the song after a Persian love story about a man driven to obsession by unattainable love. That theme mirrors the structure of the song itself. The first half is fiery and restless, built around one of rock's most recognizable riffs. Then comes the famous piano coda, written by drummer Jim Gordon. A haunting, almost reflective outro that feels like emotional surrender after emotional chaos. 2 movements, one stormy, one resigned. At the time of its original release, Layla was not a major hit. It peaked modestly and only gained massive recognition years later. But over time, it became Clapton's signature song, a masterpiece born from complicated emotions rather than simple romance. And that's the pattern we keep seeing. Some of the most beautiful songs of the 1970s weren't written from comfort. They were written from longing, from conflict, from feelings that had nowhere else to go. Layla sounds triumphant, but at its core, it's about wanting something you cannot have. Number 5. The Needle and the Damage Done. Neil Young, 1972.
I love you, baby, can I have some more?
I sing the song because I love the man. Unlike many hits of the 1970s, this one doesn't hide behind upbeat production or layered arrangements. It's just a voice, an acoustic guitar, a harmonica. Released on the 1972 album Harvest, this song runs barely over 2 minutes, yet it carries enormous emotional weight. Neil Young wrote it after watching addiction affect people close to him, including his bandmate from Crazy Horse, Danny Whitten.
I hit the city and I lost my band.
Whitten was immensely talented, but substance struggles were interfering with rehearsals and recording sessions. Young found himself facing an impossible situation, balancing loyalty with responsibility to the band. The line, "I hit the city and I lost my band," reflects that painful decision. What makes the song powerful is its restraint. There are no dramatic crescendos, no polished studio sheen. In fact, Young recorded it live during a concert performance, keeping the raw vulnerability intact.
Seen the needle and the damage done.
When the song was released, it resonated deeply. Not because it was sensational, but because it was honest. The sparse arrangement forces you to listen. The pauses between lines feel heavy. The harmonica sounds like quiet reflection. Unlike some of the other songs on this list, this one doesn't disguise its weight with a cheerful melody. It doesn't soften the subject matter. It simply observes. And sometimes, that simplicity is more powerful than any production trick. In the 1970s, when rock music was getting bigger and louder, this was the opposite. Intimate, fragile, and deeply personal. A reminder that behind the era's stadium anthems were artists processing real-life struggles through song. Number 4. I Wish It Would Rain. The Temptations, 1967.
Girl has found another and gone away.
But I Wish It Would Rain. Technically released in late 1967, this song carried deep emotional weight into the 1970s radio era and became one of the most enduring heartbreak ballads in soul music. At the center of the recording is the voice of David Ruffin. Raw, pleading, almost trembling. The lyrics describe a man wishing for rain to hide his tears. Simple, poetic, powerful.
I wish it would rain. Oh, yeah, yeah.
But what many listeners didn't know was that the songwriter, Roger Penzabene, poured intensely personal feelings into those lines. He had recently gone through emotional turmoil in his private life, and that sense of heartbreak shaped the song's tone. The lyrics weren't fictional. They came from lived experience. Motown's legendary production team crafted the arrangement carefully. Dramatic strings, restrained rhythm, space for Ruffin's voice to carry the emotional center.
Words could never explain. I just wish it would rain.
The song reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a soul classic. But here's what makes it remarkable. There's no theatrical shock, no sensational backstory in the melody itself, just genuine emotion captured in a 3-minute recording. Listeners slow danced to it, played it on late-night radio, let it soundtrack their own heartbreaks. And that's the quiet pattern in so many of these songs. Behind smooth production and polished harmonies were writers working through very real pain. I Wish It Would Rain sounds romantic, but it's really about vulnerability, about not wanting the world to see you fall apart. Number 3, Hotel California, Eagles, 1976. Welcome to the Hotel California. Few songs from the 1970s are as instantly recognizable as this one. Released in 1976, Hotel California became the Eagles' signature track, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and winning a Grammy for Record of the Year. On the surface, it sounds cinematic, mysterious, almost glamorous. But the story behind it is less about a real hotel and more about a mindset. According to Don Henley, the song was meant as a reflection on the darker side of success in 1970s Los Angeles. excess, materialism, temptation, and the feeling of being trapped by your own choices. The famous line, "You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave."
You can check out anytime you like, but you can't.
It isn't about a building, it's about a lifestyle. By the mid-70s, the Eagles were experiencing massive fame. With that came non-stop touring, industry pressure, and the party culture surrounding rock stardom. The song captures that duality, beautiful on the outside, hollow underneath. Musically, the contrast is striking. The melody is smooth and inviting. The harmonies are polished. And then comes that legendary twin guitar solo, one of the most celebrated in rock history. Yet the lyrics describe illusion, disconnection, a paradise that slowly becomes a cage.
Last thing I remember, I was running.
Over the decades, fans have created countless interpretations, conspiracy theories, symbolic meanings, even supernatural explanations. But the band has consistently described it as a metaphor, not for a place, for a psychological state, and that's what makes it endure. Hotel California isn't just a rock anthem, it's a cautionary tale disguised as one. Number 2, Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen, 1975.
Look up to the skies.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? When this song was released in 1975, radio executives didn't know what to do with it. 6 minutes long, no traditional chorus, opera section in the middle, hard rock ending. And yet, it became one of the biggest songs of the decade, spending 9 weeks at number 1 in the UK and later reaching the top 10 in the US. Written by Freddie Mercury, Bohemian Rhapsody remains one of the most analyzed songs in rock history. Mercury rarely explained its meaning. He preferred to let listeners interpret it themselves. But many believe the song reflects inner conflict, identity, guilt, transformation, and emotional struggle. The structure itself feels like a journey, a quiet confession, a chaotic operatic trial, a defiant hard rock explosion, and finally, calm acceptance. The shifts in mood mirror emotional turbulence. Was it autobiographical, a fictional story, a metaphor for personal change? We may never know. But what we do know is this: Mercury poured something deeply personal into it. The recording process alone was groundbreaking. The band layered vocals for weeks, building the operatic section piece by piece, at a time when studio technology was far more limited than today. It was ambitious, risky, expensive, and it paid off. Bohemian Rhapsody proved that mainstream audiences were willing to embrace something unconventional, even theatrical, if the emotion felt real. It doesn't sound like a typical 70s hit. It sounds like someone wrestling with something larger than themselves and turning that struggle into art. Number 1, Without You, Harry Nilsson, 1971.
Places you were leaving, but I guess
I can't live if living is without you. Few ballads from the 1970s feel as powerful as this one. Released in 1971 on the album Nilsson Schmilsson, Harry Nilsson's version of Without You climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1972 and topped charts around the world. It sounds dramatic, emotional, almost operatic. But the song didn't begin with Nilsson. It was written by Pete Ham and Tom Evans of the British band Badfinger in 1970. Originally 2 separate song fragments, they combined the pieces into a single heartbreak ballad. Badfinger recorded it first, but their version remained relatively understated. When Nilsson heard the song, he believed in its emotional core and decided to reinterpret it.
no, I can't forget tomorrow.
Producer Richard Perry expanded the arrangement with sweeping strings and a full orchestral build. Nilsson pushed his vocal range to the edge, delivering the chorus with raw intensity. The result was transformative. The song became one of the biggest hits of 1972 and is still considered one of the most powerful vocal performances of the era. But here's what gives it added weight. The writers of the song experienced years of financial and management struggles within the music industry. Despite commercial success, they faced legal and business complications that created immense pressure. Over time, their story became one of the cautionary tales of 1970s rock, highlighting how quickly success could turn complicated behind the scenes. That context doesn't change the melody, but it adds depth. Every time Nilsson sings about not being able to go on, the emotion feels real, because it began as something real. And that's the thread running through all 10 songs on this list, behind the melodies that soundtracked road trips, weddings, and late-night radio. We're real people, real pressure, real emotions. The 1970s gave us unforgettable music, but sometimes the story behind the song is just as powerful as the song itself.